Hi, this is Pastor Jim, continuing thoughts from my study. I don't know about you, but I've been hearing a lot of people say, we'll never get back to normal. We can't go back to normal. We shouldn't go back to normal. It's all about when we're going to be able to reopen our churches and reopen our business and what's going to happen to the economy. But everybody seems to be in agreement on one thing: we can't go back to normal. Got an email from somebody the other day that just kind of almost disturbed me, but let me just share it with you. It again said, we can't go back to normal. We in the churches need to recognize that we can't go back to the way we were, and that instead we need to do some of these things. Now, let me just read you some of what they are. There will be a need to develop more leaders. It is essential that we involve more people in small groups. There will be the need to deepen discipleship. We will be called upon to address real spiritual needs. Really? So instead of going back to normal, we need to do things like develop more leaders and get more people in small groups and deepen our discipleship, and we need to address spiritual needs. Isn't that what's supposed to be normal for the church? So are we saying that the church has not been normal for a while? Are we saying that the people in the church have not been committed, to depth or service or loving God the way they should? Are we saying that people are not getting in small groups? That they're not getting involved in discipleship? Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're basically saying the church has not been living up to what its norm should be. That's pretty sad. I mean, where else would you go to do these kinds of things if not in the church? Where else are you going to deepen your discipleship? Where else are you going to develop leaders for the church if not in the church? Maybe they're right. Maybe our norm has been way below the par. Maybe we need to raise the bar up and up and up until we get it to where it should be. I certainly believe that God wants us to develop depth in the hearts of our congregants, that He wants us to get them involved in small groups so that they can have community relationships and establish strong, good, lasting relationships where people will encourage each other, comfort one another, and exhort one another, and be able to share with one another and confess to one another. Certainly believe that He would want us to develop leaders so that the church can continue. But we may have a problem on both sides. Maybe we don't have people who are willing to do the work of developing a leader, and maybe we don't have people who want to do the work of becoming a leader. I don't know what it is, but I guess I'd have to agree. If this has not been the norm, then we need to get back to it. We need to get back to the church, to the job of the church. I'm sorry. So really, when you look at in Ephesians chapter 4, and it talks about the job of the pastor is supposed to be equipping saints for ministry. Equipping saints for ministry. And when you read through this, what we're discovering is that the church, the reason it exists, is so that people can, in fact, grow in their faith. They can grow in the Word, so they can learn more about God and be trained and discipled and mentored. So if we're not doing that, then we're not being normal. We're not being normal. So let's not go back to what we've been doing. But you know what? I say, hey, why wait? Why don't you get into a small group now? Why don't you talk to your pastor or one of your church leaders about becoming a leader and wanting to be mentored to become the kind of leader the church needs? Why don't you establish some good prayer relationships with good prayer partners, accountability partners? Why don't you get into Sunday school and all that you can, dig deep to get as close as you can to God, learn more about God? Aren't you supposed to be in love with Him? Shouldn't you be spending a lot of time with His people and His church, doing what He wants you to do? Small groups, developing leaders, getting depth, addressing spiritual needs. Yeah, I think that's where we're supposed to be. So if that's not been the norm, let's get back to norm. Get involved in a small group. Commit to the church. Commit to Christ and His work and His kingdom. Go ahead and do it today.